The morning sun rose slowly over the golden fields, but his heart hadn't known warmth in months. The drought had sapped more than his crops. It had nearly taken his spirit. The tractor needed repairs he couldn't afford, and the bank letters stacked like a quiet threat on the kitchen table. Still, he walked the familiar path to town, carrying fresh eggs and hopeful silence. Halfway there, he saw her. A sleek, unfamiliar car sat stranded by the roadside. A young woman in a city coat stood beside it, frustration in her eyes, phone held high in search of a signal that wouldn't come. He stopped. "Car trouble?" he asked. She blinked, surprised. Her manicured nails and designer boots didn't quite belong to this dirt road, but desperation made her nod. "It just won't start. I've been here nearly an hour. No cell service." No passing cars, only him. He walked to the hood, asked for the keys, and got to work. He didn't speak much. She did. She talked about the city, the internship she was rushing toward, and the meeting that might change her life. He listened, wiping oil on his sleeve, fiddling with fuses and wires like he'd done on tractors all his life. Then the engine coughed, then it roared. She gasped. "You fixed it." He smiled. Sometimes the problem's just hiding where people don't look. She looked at him differently now, not as a stranger, but someone who knew things no classroom ever taught. "I don't even know your name," she said. He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. Just get to where you need to go." She left after pressing a card in his hand. 2 weeks passed, then came the black car. Suits stepped out. He thought they were from the bank, but they weren't. They were from the largest agricultural firm in the region, Mr. Weston. One said, "We received a personal letter from the CEO daughter. She says you saved her engine, and in doing so, saved her future. She told us about your land, your work ethic, your kindness. We'd like to offer you a grant and a job." He was stunned. The girl he helped was the daughter of the CEO. She hadn't told him. She hadn't needed to, because when you help someone without knowing what they can give you, that's when your life truly changes. Compassion doesn't require wealth. It only requires a willing heart. In today's fast-paced and often self-centered world, we have come to associate generosity with abundance and giving with having plenty. But that is a misconception deeply rooted in the materialistic lenses through which we often view society. True compassion is not bound by the size of one's bank account or the luxury of one's circumstances. Rather, it is found in the hearts of those who, despite their own struggles, choose to act kindly, empathetically, and selflessly. This powerful truth was embodied in the story of a struggling farmer who, despite grappling with his own burdens, did not hesitate to help a stranded stranger. It serves as a reminder to all of us, especially students, professionals, and young minds stepping into a complex world, that human value is not measured by possessions, but by the willingness to give when it's least convenient. In educational settings, we often emphasize achievement, competition, and efficiency. While these are important aspects of success, they must not overshadow character, empathy, and community. A farmer with soil, stained hands, and a weary heart might not seem like a source of profound wisdom in a digital world, but his compassion offers a timeless lesson. Helping someone does not require titles, degrees, or influence. It requires presence. It requires the courage to pause your own pain long enough to notice someone else's. This principle is especially vital in the upbringing of children and the nurturing of ethical leadership. Compassion teaches emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize emotions in oneself and others and to respond with care rather than indifference. It allows us to build bridges across differences. A person with limited financial resources may give time, labor, or even just kindness. In the case of the farmer, he gave mechanical skill, effort, and patience. Simple gifts that turned into a lifeline for a young woman unfamiliar with rural roads and broken engines. Though he didn't know who she was or what she could offer him in return, he still chose to help. Such acts may not seem remarkable in the moment. They might not earn medals or headlines, but they ripple outward in unpredictable ways. Compassion is both seed and harvest. It begins small, with one choice, one moment of empathy, and grows into something far greater. Sometimes, as in the story, it results in an unexpected opportunity or reward, but even when it doesn't, it transforms the giver, it strengthens dignity, it creates community, it reminds people that someone cares. Educationally, integrating compassion into the curriculum, whether in primary schools or universities, cultivates environments where students not only learn academic content, but also how to live meaningfully. A science student who volunteers at a free clinic, a teenager who stands up for a bullied classmate, a college graduate who mentors someone with fewer opportunities. These are the modern equivalents of the farmer's deed. They are living lessons that shape resilient, kind, and socially responsible citizens. It's also crucial to challenge the narrative that only the privileged can contribute. Compassion levels the field. It empowers everyone, regardless of status or resources, to make a difference. When young people see that even someone facing foreclosure, drought, or economic hardship can still uplift another, they learn that their voice and actions matter, even when they feel powerless. This is not just about morality, it's about capability. Compassion builds leadership because it demands action, integrity, and courage. In the end, the most important education we receive is not just from books or classrooms. It's from life, and the people who touch it deeply. The struggling farmer may never be featured in a textbook, but his actions hold lessons that no textbook can teach, and that is the kind of knowledge that endures. That is the kind of wisdom the world needs now more than ever. Never underestimate acts of kindness because their impact often stretches far beyond what the eye can see. In a world increasingly driven by transactions, metrics, and expectations of reciprocity, the quiet power of a genuine, selfless gesture often goes unnoticed. Yet, it is within these small, often unseen actions that true change begins. A simple word of encouragement, a helping hand, a moment of patience. These things seem minor in the grand scheme, but they often carry the weight of transformation. For educators, students, and community leaders, this truth is foundational. It challenges the belief that influence must be loud, expensive, or public to matter. In the story of the struggling farmer who helped a city girl start her car, the act itself was seemingly ordinary. He saw someone in need and offered assistance. There was no promise of reward, no recognition to be expected, but that one moment, one decision to engage with empathy, became the hinge on which both their lives turned. It's important to recognize that the farmer didn't plan to be a hero. He didn't anticipate that his action would be noticed, remembered, or repaid. He simply responded to another human being with compassion. This unplanned act of kindness became a bridge between two vastly different lives and opened the door to new possibilities neither could have predicted. In educational environments, students are often taught to focus on grades, results, and achievements. However, one of the most enduring lessons they can learn is how their behavior affects others. Teachers and mentors play a vital role in reinforcing the idea that everyday actions, greeting someone with kindness, standing up for a peer, helping a classmate understand a concept, can profoundly affect another person's experience. These are not soft skills, they are life skills, and more often than not, it is the accumulation of these small gestures that builds a positive, inclusive, and empowering culture in schools and communities. Moreover, acts of kindness have a multiplying effect. One person helps another, and that individual is more likely to help someone else. This ripple creates a chain reaction of goodwill that can uplift entire groups, neighborhoods, and organizations. Even when the person who gives kindness sees no immediate result, the energy of that action carries forward. A young woman whose car is fixed on a country road may go on to create opportunities for others, driven by the memory of a stranger who chose to help her. A child who witnesses generosity may grow up believing that kindness is not weakness but strength. A community shaped by mutual support becomes resilient and connected. From a psychological perspective, performing acts of kindness boosts well-being, reduces stress, and promotes a sense of purpose. For those who are struggling, it can restore faith in humanity. For those who are successful, it is a humbling reminder of shared vulnerability. In both cases, it breaks down barriers and nurtures empathy. In professional development, Leaders who act with kindness foster loyalty and motivation among their teams. In friendships, it deepens trust. In society, it builds bridges across differences that policies and programs alone cannot mend. We must also teach that kindness is a choice, not a reaction. It requires awareness, intention, and courage, especially in a world where indifference often feels safer. The farmer in the story could have kept walking. He had his own problems, but he chose to stop. He chose to give, and that decision, made without expectation, changed his life. Ultimately, the value of kindness lies not just in the immediate benefit it provides, but in the invisible hope it plants. It tells others they matter. It affirms the humanity in all of us. And as we educate, train, and lead the next generation, we must instill the belief that no act of kindness is ever wasted. Every choice to uplift another adds to a foundation stronger than any structure built from ambition alone. Perception versus reality is a concept that touches every layer of human experience, especially in how we judge others. In a world shaped heavily by appearances, titles, and social markers, we often make assumptions based on what we see on the surface. A person's clothes, accent, background, or even the car they drive can lead us to conclusions, many of which are far from the truth. Yet, when we take time to look deeper, to ask, to listen, we discover that reality often surprises us. This lesson is critical not just in personal growth, but in education, leadership, and community development. In the story of the farmer and the city girl, perception initially painted a misleading picture. The girl, well dressed and polished, appeared to be someone from a different world, someone unfamiliar with hardship. The farmer, on the other hand, likely looked like a man with little to offer, worn clothes, calloused hands, and a life marked by physical labor. These visual cues are powerful, and in many ways, they form unconscious biases that shape how we treat people. But the truth was far richer. The farmer held valuable knowledge, strength of character, and a heart ready to help without asking for anything in return. The girl, though appearing privileged, turned out to be someone deeply affected by that single act of kindness. Her identity, being the daughter of a powerful CEO, was invisible in that moment, proving that what you see isn't always what you get. This dynamic between perception and reality is especially relevant in educational contexts. Teachers must be careful not to label students based on initial behavior or appearance. A quiet student isn't necessarily uninterested. A struggling student isn't necessarily lazy, just as a well-dressed student isn't always well supported at home, nor is an outspoken one always confident inside. Understanding the reality behind a student's behavior takes time, observation, and empathy. When educators choose to see beyond the surface, they can unlock potential that might otherwise remain buried under misunderstanding. The same applies in workplaces and community spaces. Employees and leaders alike benefit from practicing awareness of bias and actively questioning their assumptions. The most effective leaders are those who seek out the stories behind their teams, who value contributions regardless of titles, and who remain humble enough to know that everyone has something to teach. Many missed opportunities for connection, growth, and partnership come from the simple failure to look deeper. Perception also plays a role in how individuals view themselves. A person struggling with insecurity may not realize their own value until someone else sees it in them. The farmer in the story likely did not view himself as remarkable. He was simply doing what he believed was right. But the reality, seen through the girl's eyes, was that his act of help was powerful, transformative, and worthy of recognition. When she acknowledged his kindness by opening the door to a new opportunity, she helped reveal a version of him that perhaps he hadn't seen in himself. We must also teach students and young people the discipline of suspending judgment. Critical thinking involves not just analyzing information, but questioning initial impressions. Media, peer pressure, and social trends often reinforce surface-level thinking. However, a thoughtful individual learns to ask, what else could be true? What might I not be seeing? These questions open the door to understanding people more deeply and forming more meaningful relationships. In a time when social media creates curated versions of life, the gap between perception and reality can become even more pronounced. People often compare their messy, real lives to someone else's highlight reel. This can create feelings of inadequacy and false beliefs about success and happiness. Teaching the value of authenticity and the courage it takes to look beyond the surface is a crucial part of building emotional resilience. Ultimately, when we challenge our perceptions and seek to understand the reality of people's experiences, we move closer to a more compassionate, just, and connected world. We learn that a struggling farmer may hold lessons in dignity and strength. A city girl may carry influence and gratitude that changes lives, and we begin to see that every person, no matter how they appear, holds a story worth uncovering. Rural wisdom has great value, yet it is often overlooked in a world that prizes technology, speed, and convenience. In villages, farms, and small communities, there exists a kind of intelligence rooted in nature, patience, hands-on experience, and the ability to adapt with limited resources. This wisdom is passed down through generations, not through formal institutions, but through daily life, trial and error, and deep connection to the land. It teaches problem-solving, resilience, emotional strength, and the ability to observe and respond to the environment. In the story of the struggling farmer who helped a city girl start her car, it was this very kind of wisdom, practical, humble, and earned through years of hard work, that made the difference. He did not have an engineering degree, but he knew machines. He did not work in a garage, but he had fixed tractors and tools under the sky, using instinct and understanding built over a lifetime. Rural wisdom is more than just knowing how to fix a motor or plant crops. It reflects a deep awareness of life cycles, of cause and effect, of how to sustain and survive without relying on external systems. For example, a farmer knows how to read weather signs, when to sow and harvest, how to manage livestock, how to conserve resources, and how to mend what's broken rather than replace it. These lessons are incredibly relevant today, especially in times of global crisis, climate change, and economic uncertainty. Yet, society often underestimates this knowledge because it doesn't come with certificates or formal education. That's a mistake we must correct, especially through education that values different kinds of intelligence and experience. In classrooms, young people are often taught that success is found in cities in high-paying jobs and digital innovation. While these paths are valid, students must also be taught to value manual skill, community-based knowledge, and the resourcefulness that comes from rural life. A child raised on a farm may not have the same vocabulary as someone in a city school, but they may know how to solve complex mechanical issues, handle emergencies calmly, and persevere through uncertainty, skills that are essential in any professional field. By integrating rural perspectives into education, we not only honor diversity, but also create more adaptable, grounded, and holistic thinkers. The story of the farmer is a powerful example of how rural knowledge can solve modern problems. The girl's car, built with the latest technology, became useless in the face of a simple malfunction, but the farmer's understanding of engines, refined by academic training, yet sharpened by years of necessity, was what saved the day. This illustrates that wisdom is not about how new the knowledge is, but how well it is applied. It reminds us that those who live close to the land have something precious to teach: patience, creativity, and the ability to thrive with little. Furthermore, rural life fosters character traits that are essential in leadership and service. Hard work, honesty, respect for nature, and interdependence are core values found in most rural communities. These values create strong individuals who can lead with humility, who understand the importance of community, and who do not take resources for granted. In contrast to the fast-paced, consumption-driven urban model, rural wisdom teaches us to slow down, to appreciate simplicity, and to find meaning in contribution rather than consumption. As we build future curricula, train teachers, and guide young minds, we must make space for the inclusion of rural voices and experiences. Field visits, community engagement programs, and the invitation of rural professionals as guest speakers can help bridge this gap. Urban and rural worlds must not remain isolated, but rather learn from one another. The city has speed, but the village has depth. When these two forms of wisdom come together, innovation becomes sustainable and progress becomes more human-centered. The day the farmer helped the city girl was more than a mechanical fix. It was a transfer of knowledge from one world to another. It proved that the answers we need often lie in places we least expect. And as we continue to evolve, it is crucial that we don't forget the value of rural wisdom, the quiet intelligence that feeds nations, builds resilience, and restores dignity. Character is revealed in struggle, and it is often during our most difficult moments that our true values, beliefs, and inner strength come to light. While comfort and success can mask deeper qualities, adversity strips away illusion and reveals who we really are. In the story of the struggling farmer, his life was far from easy. Faced with drought, financial hardship, and the looming threat of losing his land, he had every reason to focus solely on his own survival. Yet, when he came across a stranger in need, he chose to stop and help. This decision, made under pressure, was not just an act of kindness. It was a demonstration of character. He could have walked by, but his instincts told him to do what was right, even if it cost him time or effort he could barely spare. This lesson is crucial in education and leadership because it reminds us that true character isn't built in comfort, it's forged in the fire of difficulty. Students may excel academically, but it is their response to setbacks that often determines their future success. Do they give up after failure, or do they persevere? Do they blame others, or do they take responsibility? These questions matter more than test scores because they shape a person's ability to face real life challenges. Teachers and mentors must emphasize the importance of integrity, resilience, and empathy, not just as moral values, but as essential life skills developed through experience. Hardship reveals what we are willing to stand for. In times of crisis, people must choose between self-preservation and service, fear and courage, silence and advocacy. The farmer's act may have looked simple, but it was a quiet triumph of his values over his circumstances. He had little, yet he gave. He was tired, yet he stopped. He was struggling, yet he still chose to help. This shows that character is not about perfection or heroism. It is about consistent choices made from a place of inner strength. Struggles also teach humility. When everything is going well, it is easy to become self-centered or blind to the needs of others. But when you have tasted hardship, you understand the pain of others more deeply. This is why many of the most compassionate people are those who have known suffering. The farmer's struggles gave him not just mechanical knowledge, but emotional depth. He knew what it felt like to be stuck, to feel helpless. That empathy guided his actions, and it made his help sincere. For young people today, developing character in a world filled with distractions, shortcuts, and surface-level success is a significant challenge. Social media often celebrates image over integrity and instant gratification over long-term effort. This is why stories like the farmer's are so important. They bring us back to timeless values. They remind us that doing the right thing, especially when it's hard, is what builds a person from the inside out. Struggle, though painful, is one of the most effective teachers. It teaches patience, determination, gratitude, and emotional resilience. Leadership, in particular, demands strong character. A leader without integrity can do great harm, while one shaped by struggle tends to lead with understanding, humility, and a sense of service. The farmer may never have considered himself a leader, but in that moment, he led by example. He showed that leadership can come from anyone, regardless of their status, title, or wealth. It is defined by actions, not words. We must also teach students to reflect on their own struggles and see them not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. When they face rejection, loss, or fear, they are being shaped. They are being given a chance to understand themselves, to make hard choices, and to emerge stronger. Reflection and discussion around these experiences can help students connect the dots between what they've gone through and who they are becoming. In the end, it is not the easy times that define us. It is the moments when we are tested and we choose to act with integrity. The farmer's story reminds us that no matter how difficult our path, we can still choose to be kind, helpful, and courageous. And in making that choice, we reveal not only who we are, but who we are capable of becoming.